and I'm driving this car and it's shaking, and it's very alarming. And I feel the Holy Spirit telling me everyone needs to buckle up. I looked at my mom and I said, everyone needs to get their seatbelts on. And, they're putting the kids in the seats, and I was like, you need to buckle them in right now. Hey, it's Seriously Sis Podcast, and welcome back. This week, we're going to talk about when the math is not mathing. We're going to talk through some miracles and things that the Lord has done in our lives, to give you guys some encouragement. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to let Julia kick this off. I hope she's ready.
Well, I feel like we talk about some weighty topics. Sometimes I feel like this one should be light. This one should be like you said, encouraging, and real stories. Because the first one that comes to mind when I think of that is when I was kind of newly out of college and broke, and I needed to get a place of my own because I'd been staying with my spiritual parents for a while. And all at once, my taxes were ruined. I ended up owing a whole bunch of money. I had some stuff going on with my car. I wasn't making no money. And I really didn't have a way to pay for any of this stuff. And I remember in the midst of that, one of my friends at the job that I was working at the time, she was like, hey, I know of an apartment. I'll give you the guy's number if you want it. And I was like, sure, girl, you can give it to me. But what am I going to do with that information? But she gave it to me, and I called him. And I went and met him, and he showed me the apartment. He was like, so what do you think? And I was like, it's nice. I'd be living on my own for the first time. So, anything was nice at that point, but it was nice. And he was like, what do you think? I was like, it's nice. And he said, okay, well, here you go. And he gave me the keys. And I'm just like, what are you doing? And he's like, here you go. And I'm like, we haven't talked about rent. We haven't talked about the deposit or nothing like that. I've given you nothing. You're giving me keys. And he was like, yeah. He's like, I trust you'll do what you got to do. And I was like, all right. So he gave me the keys and he left. And I sat there in the middle of that living room floor thinking to myself, why did I say yes to this? What am I doing? And what are you doing, God? Because this kind of stuff don't happen. So I took the keys, locked up the apartment, went back to my parents. And I think it was the next day, my taxes amendment had gone through. I was getting a significant refund. I also was offered a job, and the situation that I had with the car, I now had the money to pay for the car, pay for the first and last and deposit of this apartment, and had a job that made enough for me to continue to pay for the apartment all in the span of a weekend. And all I did was go meet the guy because I felt like I should. So I've learned with God sometimes he'll give you little inklings of things you should do, and you have no idea why you're doing it because in your mind it doesn't make any sense. And then he shows up and shows out. And literally, I think I lived in that apartment for the next 3 or 4 years, but all because I just took some keys in faith and he made it work out.
Wow. That's incredible.
It's insane. Sometimes I still don't believe it happened.
Yeah. I think of all the, I could go with very little minute things that people were like, oh, okay. And then I have these catastrophic events that have happened in life that the Lord has brought me through. And man, I just, even from a young age, I'm one of 13. There's a lot of kids in my family, and my family didn't used to have a vehicle. We used to have one car for all of us to fit in. We would sit in this car, and it was a, I think it's called a Bonneville, maybe a Pontiac, I can't remember. And it was like a bench seat in the front and a bench seat in the back. Mm-hmm. And there are 13 of us. Now, at that time, there was probably 9 of us, kids, maybe. And my mom and stepdad would be in the front, and there'd be someone in that middle seat. And then us kids would get in that back seat. And we would put one kid on this leg and one kid on this leg. This is how we would get from place to place, mm-hmm. right? This is what we had. Mm-hmm. And we were blessed to even have that, right? And I remember someone from the church came and they gave us a van, but it wasn't just like any kind of van. It was like one of those high top TVs inside of it, like
Mm.
all leather, like
Oh, y'all are bougie.
a
Got it.
nice van.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, my mom, it was such a blessing because we didn't really have much. And I remember like thinking, the people my mom would tell her friends, and some of her friends were like, they did what for you? Like,
Mm.
why would they give you that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why not me? Kind of thing. And like just things like that you're just like, you're going to give us a whole car?
I know. That is crazy.
A nice car for why?
Yeah. But it was a lot of y'all.
Yeah, and they were like, the Lord, said for us to give you this.
Mm-hmm.
And
That is insane.
all of a sudden we looked like we had money. We didn't, but it looked like it.
But you had what you needed.
But we had what we needed.
Mm-hmm.
And not only a van, but like a huge van to
Right.
fit all of us with, like I said, TVs and a leather interior. And we had that van for years.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like literally we had outgrown the van, and it ran until someone ran it into a fence. But
Well, that sounds like a story for another day.
but
So on the topic of cars, you just made me remember this one. And I think the underlying theme for all of these is going to be that the Lord always comes through and he always provides. And sometimes he does so in the most unexpected ways. Because there was a time my brother was a new driver. I hope he doesn't mind me telling the story. He was a new driver, and we were at the beach, and he was driving us all of us. So my mom, my dad, myself, and him. And it started pouring rain. And I knew my brother at the time. He's not this way now, but he would like get anxious whenever it would rain and he'd have to drive. And it was pouring like sheets of rain. You couldn't see. And at this point, I was in the back seat, and I remember just knowing, like, and my brother's like me, like whenever we get like anxious about something, you might not be able to tell, but we get really quiet. And so I was like, I know he's anxious. And so I just started praying for him. And I was like, God, if you would just make the rain stop. And I promise you not, and I didn't pray this out loud, like nobody, I was just internally praying this to the Lord. As soon as I got the thought out of my mind, the rain broke, the clouds parted, and we went all the way to our destination, back to our hotel. Parked, got out, walked into the hotel, and then it started pouring again. So the Lord literally shifted the weather because of the prayer that I had for my
that's
brother.
incredible.
And up until the point that we feet on the ground back in the hotel, and it started raining again. And I will never forget that. And the thing about that, even more than just that story, is that at that point in time, I had been walking with the Lord a few years at that point. But one of the prayers for my family has always been that God would show up in their lives the way that he's showed up in mine. And so when that happened, like I said, I didn't pray this out loud. So after we got back to the hotel, I didn't say anything the entire ride. When we got back to the hotel, I told my brother, I told all my family, but I was like, I want you to know that when we were in the car, were you anxious? And my brother was like, yeah. And I was like, I want you to know how much God loves you, and that I prayed and asked him to shift the weather for you, and he did it. Up until the point we got back to where we were supposed to be. That is like being able to do, it's one thing when God does something for you, but it's another thing when he responds to your prayer for someone you love.
Right.
And that, like you talking about a car, made me think about that. I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Man. Staying on the car theme, I had one time I was moving from Missouri to Texas. I wanted to go live with my dad. So my mom had an Expedition. I had a really cool looking Pontiac Grand Prix that was orange. Loved
Okay.
that car. It was pretty. And we packed up this stuff. My mom's driving me there, and I'm driving behind her. And the one thing about me is when I have to travel, I don't sleep well. I don't know. I just don't. I don't sleep well the night prior. So I didn't sleep well the night prior, but I'm driving behind her. And she's driving like a crazy woman. This lady's going like 90 miles an hour down the road. Like, I'm trying to keep up with her. She's driving an Expedition. I'm driving a sports car, and I'm struggling, right? But I'm really tired. And I was like, I I told my sister Allison I was trying to teach her how to drive, and that was a disaster. But I told her, I was like, I'm really tired. I think I'm just going to go into the expedition, let my sister Ashley and her boyfriend drive my car, and I was going to rest. I was tired. When I get out, we got into a gas station. I get out. My mom says, Madison, my car's acting funny. I said, okay. She said, can you drive it? Like I'm a mechanic. If you know me, I know nothing about cars. Absolutely nothing. If you knew anything about me, I'm like, I don't even know how to change a tire. You want me to drive it? Okay, I'll drive it. And I get in the car, and it's me in the driver's seat. Mom's in the front seat. My daughter Akessa is sitting in a car seat, not buckled in or anything, just sitting in the car seat. My sister Anna is sitting, and same thing, not buckled in a car seat. My sister Allison is right here. In a seat that the seatbelt don't even work in that seat, so no one's buckled up. But I get in this car and I start driving, and I'm probably I don't know, probably going 70 down the road. I'm not really sure. If you know anything about me, I also like to go the speed limit.
Under it sometimes.
I was going whatever the speed was. I was driving it, and I'm driving this car, and it's shaking, and it's very alarming. And I just I feel the Holy Spirit telling me everyone needs to buckle up. And I looked at my mom and I said, everyone needs to get in their seatbelts on. And, they're putting the kids in the seats. And I was like, you need to buckle them in right now. And there's 3 lanes of traffic. I'm trying to get to the shoulder. And I tell my mom, I said, it feels like your tires are warped. And if your tire's warped, your tire could blow. Now, why I know that, I don't know. I do not know nothing about cars, but that's what came out of my mouth. If your tire's warped, the tire could blow. And we need to get off this highway. So I'm going on to the shoulder, and I hit that shoulder. And when I get there, my sister's seatbelt clicks. As soon as my sister Allison's seatbelts click, that tire blew. And we started flipping. That car started rolling. And I remember we rolled the first time. And I'm like, I felt very peaceful. I could hear everyone screaming, but I felt very peaceful. And it gets light, and it's getting lighter. And we roll again, and it gets brighter and brighter. And I remember I say to the Lord, I'm like, if we roll one more time, there's not going to be any car left. We're going to die. And we stopped on the shoulder to oncoming traffic. Stopped right there. We were facing Texas when we started. We were facing Missouri when we stopped. And no one in that car was injured. No one in that car had anything wrong with them. And I told my mom, I said, had I not got in that car and had I not listened to the Lord and not told you guys to get your seatbelts on, I would have lost my daughter. Kessa would have been gone because she wasn't even in her seatbelt. My mom was going 90 miles an hour on a warped tire.
Lord.
Jesus. But it was just like such a moment that I knew the Lord spoke to me. I knew what he told me to do. And I did it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, I'm going to do it. And had I not gotten that driver's seat, I would have probably lost my whole family.
Yeah. And the other crazy part is that listening to you tell the story is you said, if we roll one more time, we're going to die. We're going to die. And the Lord did not allow you to roll one more time.
And we stopped right there. And when I kept saying, I felt so peaceful. It kept getting lighter and lighter. It hit me after the fact. The reason it was getting brighter and brighter is because pieces of the car were missing when we stopped. Like the sunroof gone, like the windshield gone. Things are making it where it's brighter and brighter. I'm over here like, maybe it was just angels. I don't know. But yeah. And like I said, we all walked away completely fine. My mom was actually pregnant at the time. It was like a wow.
Yeah.
They thought I had a broken collarbone. I went to the worst ER I've ever been to. They said I had a broken collarbone. So all these things are wrong with me. And we get back to Springfield, Missouri, and I get to the ER, and they were like, did they put neck brace on you when they got you out of the car? And I was like, no, they didn't even get me out of the car. I got myself out of the car. I immediately jumped out of the car when it was done. I was like, my sister was screaming because the seatbelt did what it was supposed to do. It kept her in the seat. And I'm like walking around. I swear we look like drug dealers because I do hair, I color hair back then. And so I had powdered bleach packets all over the place, right? There's powdered bleach everywhere. So like if you walk to this scene, and there was a bunch of cars that stopped because it looked horrible. There was just packets of white powder stuff all over the place. I'm like, I promise you it was hair
Is it
color.
is it hair coloring? Is it cocaine? We don't
I'm
know.
like thinking these people probably think we're crazy, but it was hair color. Like there's bleach everywhere, and yeah, it's such a testimony though, because I know if I wouldn't have gotten in that car when I got in that car, they would not be alive.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't be alive if
Yeah.
I wouldn't have listened and got in the car. And my mom, of all people to ask me to drive this car,
Mm-hmm.
me. And if I didn't know in that moment, it's like the Lord, I knew that there was something wrong with that tire, that it was warped. I don't know anything about cars, but that I knew it. I was like, something here is wrong.
So it's crazy because it's like the sensitivity to the Holy Spirit that is required for you to
Right.
be able to hear that and to be calm in a situation in which you should not be calm. Like that goes against nature 100% to be calm. You're flipping. You're trying to get people buckled in, all this stuff. You don't know anything about cars, so you don't really know what to expect, but you get a very clear word from the Lord and you go with it. That's why obedience
Right.
is important in this walk with the Lord, because you could have chosen not to get in the seat. You could have chosen not to. You could have been like, "Why did we'll be fine," you know,
Right.
and then completely different outcome. That is an incredible story.
Yeah, we were slowing down. That's the crazy thing. I think by the time my mom was going 90, I may have been going 50. When like I said, I was getting on the shoulder. I was getting off the highway. I was like, we got to get off. We got to get to the shoulder. We got to get out of here. I couldn't imagine how we've been going 10 miles faster.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But the Lord, you know,
He's
my
good.
man.
So speaking of keeping with this car theme, mine's way less intense than yours, but there was one time I was coming from the mountains to come here to visit my family, and it's about a 5-hour difference, right? So it was, again, raining one day, and this stretch of road was really bad, and I had slowed down. I'm telling this because I got a ticket for this, and I should not have gotten a ticket for this because I slowed down significantly, and he still gave me a ticket, but whatever, that's not the point of the story. But there was a bad stretch of road, and all of a sudden I lost control of the car and started hydroplaning. And so I too came across lanes, and I wasn't quite out of the mountains yet. I was 2 hours from the mountains, but I was 2 hours from home, 2.5 hours from home. So I was still kind of like in hills or whatever. And I was spinning across lanes, and I hit the guardrail, which praise God for the guardrail, because otherwise it was a drop.
Oh.
But the reason why I say it was a bad stretch of road is because there were 2 other cars behind me that also hydroplaned, and we were all going under the speed limit. It was raining that hard. But the God part in it, on top of the fact that I did not die, was that I hit the guardrail on the side of the road. I can't tell you the number of people who stopped, checked on me in pouring rain to see if I was all right. And this is a major highway. We're not talking about no little side road or nothing.
Right.
People stopping to come check on me. Then the ambulance comes. I'm fine. The ambulance comes and they're talking to me, and I feel like we might have started talking about the Lord in the ambulance. So because my spiritual parents are 2.5 hours from me and my biological parents are 2.5 hours from me, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, I'm like, what am I going to do? Because I don't have no car. It's pouring raining. I don't have no way to get nowhere else. So the tow truck takes me and drops me off at this diner. Now, I don't know if y'all know about the mountains, but some areas of the mountains are really sketchy,
I've never been, so I don't know.
especially at night. It can be. Mountains have beautiful people, lovely people, but there are some sketchy areas. And so he's like, the best I can do is just, bring you here to this to this diner. And I'm like, this is where I die. So I get out the car or the truck and I go in the diner, and there are scriptures written all over the walls in the diner. I didn't have no money. These people fed me. They talked to me. They stayed open late while I waited for my spiritual parents to come and get me. Scriptures everywhere. And so every step of the way, the Lord was there with me. Even when I was spinning on the highway, I was literally, I don't know if you've ever like done something, you feel like you're doing it in slow motion. I'm sure you did in your car accident.
Yeah.
But I'm spinning across the highway and I'm just like, this can't be what we're doing right now.
I
this
think
is
this is not supposed to be written like this.
yeah, this can't be what we're doing right now. But even in that, like, I had peace is my point. Like, I
Yeah.
wasn't freaking out or anything like that. And then to show up, because I'm not going to lie to you, I wasn't sure that I was going to be safe where I was going. And then for there to be scriptures on the wall and for them to be so kind and to feed me, not make me pay for it. Let me keep them from their families while I wait for my family to come get me was just, one of the craziest experiences that I've had of being completely defenseless. Like, I don't have a car. I mean, I have a phone. I got a wallet. I guess I got a credit card at this point. If I really needed to buy something, I could have. But everyone who would help me is hours away. And the Lord didn't leave me in that. And I remember that. And the other part of that story is that when that happened, my spiritual mom had just texted me and was like, "How's the drive?" And I was like, "Well, so I'm on the side of the highway." So she and my spiritual dad were at a musical. One of the kids from their gym was in a production, and they were going to see it. And my dad has a summer camp, and his summer camp is intense, but it's very, very long days. I think he starts at like 7 in the morning. He might get home at 8, 9 o'clock,
Oh, dang.
and it's all summer. So he's very, very tired. But he finds out that I've been in this accident, and he immediately gets up. They get in the car and they come get me. And these are my spiritual parents, not my biological parents. And after they came and got me, my sister also came with them to come get me. After that, when I got in the car, he said, that someone had called him while he was coming, and they were like asking him what he was doing, and he was like, "I'm going to get my daughter." And they were like, "Man, you've worked all day. You're so tired. Like, why would you go do that?" And first of all, I'm thinking to myself, what kind of horrible person are you for you to ask a question like that?
That is crazy.
Horrible person. I'm sorry if you watch this podcast. I don't know who it was, so sorry if I just outed you. But my dad was like, "That's my kid. I'm going to get my kid." And at that time, for my heart and where I was and what I needed, that was just as important to me to hear that from him as the fact that God was with me through this whole thing. So he protected my physical well-being, but he also is protecting my heart and let me know that there's men in my life who care. And that was significant at that time. And so that what should have been like a disastrophe, as you said earlier,
Yeah.
what should the Lord use to not only reinforce that he's always with me, but that there are people around me who love me too.
That's amazing.
So like it was a crazy story. Don't need to do it again, but it was a crazy story.
Yeah. Don't need to do it again.
Man, I feel like I got a ton of God stories, but those are pretty much the ones that are coming to mind right now.
I have quite a few. I feel like I have a lot of disastrophes that have happened that when they turn out, it's just like, oh, this has to be the Lord. I think about a couple years ago, the company I'm working for surplused me. They needed me to relocate to a different state, and because my husband's in the military, I wasn't able to do that.
Oh wow!
And so it was, hey, either find a different job or get off payroll or find a different job, basically. And it was really hard because I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? Like I have 6 kids, my husband and me, we do rely on my income, for bills and whatnot. And in that season, it was just like so horrible. I remember crying and I want to go a little bit before that. Before that, the job I was working, I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I loved the job, but I didn't feel myself doing something that lacked a lot of purpose. Like, and I used to say, God, I could do this all day long. It's not difficult, but I really do want a job with purpose, that it's something that I desire. So I want to preface, I was praying that. And then I got this surplus and I was like, Okay, so I applied to a million jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. I applied to jobs I didn't even qualify for. I remember I applied to a job to be like a cybersecurity person. I know nothing about cybersecurity. I said, I don't care. I need a job. Give me a job. I was like, the qualifications, I don't meet any of them, but I'm going to apply to them. Needless to say, I didn't get any of those jobs. I didn't even get interviews, but I was just applying and applying and applying like desperate. Like December's coming quick. I got to be off payroll. I got to get a job. So I end up applying to 2 jobs. Actually, I reached out to one of my mentors and she told me to apply to a job. I applied to that job. I applied to another job. Logically, I should have taken this job because this job, my pay wasn't going to be super impacted, but I just felt like I couldn't work for the person. So I was like, okay, I can't take that job. I just didn't feel like it was right. Plus, it was a job I would have hated. If I'm being honest, it's something I don't really enjoy, but I was desperate. And then there was this job over here that was a significant pay cut, like significant. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I talked to that leader on that job, and she's a believer as well. We talked for a long time, and I was like, I'm going to take this job. I'm going to take a massive pay cut, but I'm going to take this job. And so I took that job. I was at that job. I was pregnant at the time too. That's what made it even worse, is because I'm pregnant, getting ready to be jobless. And my job has a really good paternity leave. Okay. Like I was like, I'm going to miss out on all this. I never get a break. That's what I was thinking. So I take this job. I take a huge pay cut, and, I go on maternity leave. I have my little girl, and it was only, I think, 2 months later, I went on maternity leave, I think. I was like really ready to pop when I took this job. And someone reached out and they said, hey, Madison, you should apply to this other job. I said, okay, sure. So I applied to it. And I end up getting a new job. Okay. I get a pay increase whenever that happens. And a couple months later, another position comes open that is something right up my wheelhouse. It's like coaching and developing people and leadership. And it's all these things that I really am passionate about. And they're hand selecting people for this job. Now, and I went to my boss. I said, I know you have probably some people in mind, but I just want to throw my name in the hat if it
Sure.
works out, think of me, whatever. And she was like, based off the fact that you've not been in your position long enough, like she was like, it's honestly, my boss is going to say no. I was like, okay. I just wanted to say if,
Sure.
you
You
put my
wanted to
name
shoot
out
your
there.
shot. I got it.
Yeah. So I'm on maternity leave, and I came back from maternity leave to take that one job, and I have a year to use my maternity leave. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a month off. So I go on my month-long maternity leave, and she reaches out to me. She says, hey, I got some bad news and some good news. And I was like, she does this all the time. Okay. So I'm like, okay, what do you want first? Give me the bad news. The bad news is you're going to have to come back from maternity leave early. Why? Because we want to give you that job.
Oh, man.
So I took a significant pay cut when I was surplus. And when I stepped into this job, what I lost was doubled, given back to me. Double.
Okay, Job.
Yeah, it was double what I had been taken from me. And since I've been in this position, it's been probably the best position I've ever been in. I just love it. It's a great job. And I saw that supervisor the other day, that my boss's boss, that she said, oh, he is going to say no. And he looked at me and he said, Madison, you were a gamble. You were a gamble. But it was a great decision. And I was like, if that ain't God, I don't know what is. Like,
For
I
real.
was sitting there. I asked for a job up my alley. I did not know that it was going to take me the scenic route to get there. I did not know. I was like, what? But it didn't even take a year for all of that to happen, to where I lost a job, lost my pay, got a new job, and then got double what I had lost.
It's crazy. It makes me wonder, like, if you hadn't have lost your job, if you would have felt compelled, been in the position, whatever, to take the new one, when it came available. Because sometimes, the situations that we find ourselves in, even though they suck, position us to make decisions we wouldn't have made otherwise.
Oh, I would have never left the other job. I worked from home. I could have done the job. It was an easy job. I got to work in my pajamas 9 times out of 10.
I love
Literally.
that.
Michael used to make fun of me. He'd be like, you roll out of bed and then you sit at the desk. It wasn't fulfilling necessarily, but,
Right.
it was easy.
Mhm.
So I don't foresee that I would have probably ever left that job, even though it necessarily wasn't what I wanted to be doing.
See, God knows his kids. I'm not saying that God got you surplus. I'm just saying he knows his kids.
Yeah, it was but I can say I know I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, the Lord was all in that. I didn't know what was going on. I had minutes and moments where I was like, Lord, I can't do this. You got to figure this out. That other job I took was horrible.
Yeah, I get that. We can have a whole nother podcast about bad jobs, but let's not do that today.
Yeah, but no, I've seen some really great things in my life, just where you wouldn't think it would work like that, but it did. Like even me going to Bible school as a single mom with 3 kids, and
Right.
I was never wanted for anything. I went to school at get up for school at 6 a.m. and I would work night shift, and I was never tired. I had energy. I told him, I said, Lord, if you give me the energy, I will do this. And I used to remember people be like, you work on 5 hours of sleep. I thought I was superhuman for a little bit, but how he showed up in that time of my life, I saw more blessings and more people come out of their way for me in that time of my life than I ever had seen. And I had prayed, that God would show me the favor he has on my life. I used to have people sit in my section. I used to wait tables, and people sitting in my section leave me $400 tips. And people would, and it wasn't like a one-time thing. I mean, it was consistent. Consistently, I was walking away from work making over $400 because people were coming out of their way and just giving me, and I'm a great server. I will say that. I don't know if I deserve $400. I mean, but it was like a weekly occurrence at least where someone was giving me a tip that was just outrageous. And I would have coworkers that be like, what did you do to get that? What did you do and why? And I was going to Bible school and I was taking care of my kids and I was doing what needed to happen. And he was just showing up all the time. Every time I thought I couldn't do something, he would show up. I remember going to Bible school and I sing a little bit. And I went to school to do worship and I would be crying because I'd be like, I can't do this. I literally cannot do this. I don't know why I'm in this position. Why you called me to be out here doing this. I can't do it. And opportunities would come across my path to show me, okay, maybe I can. Maybe I can do this. But listen, it don't ever look the way I think it's going to look. It doesn't ever make any sense. He will qualify you for things you're not qualified for.
Yeah. Yes, he will.
Every single time.
I'm a living testimony of that.
And yeah, you got a bunch of things like that. I'm just saying.
No, I do. Like I said, there's so many stories, and this could be a 2-hour-long podcast, but we won't do that to the people who watch this time. Maybe we'll do it again and tell some additional stories.
Unless you guys ask us to.
Yeah, unless you ask us to. If you want us to, drop it in a comment. But yeah, there's so many stories, so many of my own stories, so many stories of things I've gotten to see God do in other people's lives around me.
Right.
That had just as much of an impact on my life, even though it wasn't happening to me personally. That's why it's not hard for me to have the faith that I have because my faith is grounded in something. Right. I think sometimes people, they hear the term faith and they think that your faith is supposed to be blind, but it's not. God says, taste and see that I am good. There's reasons why we believe what we believe. It's not only because we've read. Now, faith does come by hearing, but it's also because I've experienced.
Right.
You can't convince me God is not real because he's shown up in my life. That would be like me trying to deny that you exist right here. I'm looking at you here in my life. God has been that tangible in my life, to the point where it's just like you can't convince me that there's no God.
And the fact that you say that, it makes me think of someone said to me one time, what about the people who God isn't showing up? And I just don't think that's
True.
I think that you're maybe not tuned in and noticing.
I think you're not tuned in and noticing. And sometimes I think we stand in our own way, because I'm not suggesting that you put God to the test. That's not what I'm saying. But
Please don't.
please don't. But over and over in the Bible, it's like the Lord is basically asking us to give him an opportunity to reveal himself. And whether it is because we want to control the situation, or whether it's because we have a lack of faith, or whatever it may be, sometimes we don't allow God to move
Right.
the way that he wants to move in our lives. So sometimes it could be that we're just oblivious to it, we're not noticing it. And other times it could be because we're limiting his hand. And what I mean by that is not to say that we can control God, but what I'm saying is that the Israelites, when they were walking through the wilderness, it said that they forgot about the works of the Lord, and they limited the Holy One of Israel, meaning God is not going to overstep certain boundaries that you place if you won't allow him to move. And so I always encourage people, taste and see that the Lord is good. If you got something that you're going through, try God. He's never failed me.
No.
You don't have these stories that we have without having to rely on God, without having to be in an impossible situation. Understand that there's nothing you can do to get yourself out of these situations, but know that there is a God who can, and be obedient to his voice to tell your mom and your sister and your kids to buckle up.
Right. There's a song that one of the guys who worked for me used to come in to work singing it all the time. I'm sure everyone knows it. It's called Refiner.
Oh, yeah.
It's by Chandler Moore and Maverick City. And I remember he was in there singing it one time. And he's getting it. And I said, what are you singing? And he's like, I'm singing Refiner. And I said, do you know what you're singing about? Have you listened to the words of that song? I want to be tried by fire, purified. You take whatever you desire. Lord, here's my life. That's a big statement.
Yes, it is.
And when I told him that, he said, I'm not going to sing this no more. And I'm not, that should be our desire, right?
Right.
It should be to be purified. Because I can tell you, every miracle and everything that I've walked through and everything that he's done and showed up in my life, it really has refined me.
Mm-hmm.
They say what? Pressure makes diamonds. It really has refined me.
Mm-hmm.
I would have preferred not to go through it, right?
Yeah.
But it really has refined me. So I just think about that song and I chuckle, because there was a moment when it was like the most played song on the radio, and then the disasters were happening. I'm not saying this is why, but then they're like, what is going on? I was like, well, what were you singing, man?
Right. You sure about that?
You sure you want to? Just be or be prepared.
Right.
But I still think, though, that should be our desire. Lord, keep refining us.
Yeah, 100%.
Keep showing up and showing out. And I know that means we got to walk through some things sometimes, but let us be a testament to the people around us.
But that's how your faith is built.
Yep.
Because faith that hasn't been tested is no faith at all. You have to have something to hope in order to have hope.
Right.
So, to get to the next level of maturity that we all, strive for, requires something new. And the faith that you have is built over time. Far be it for me to be in the same place in 20 years that I am right now. That would be a disaster.
I hope my skin is
well,
in the same place.
Yeah, me too.
if it's possible, but no.
Well,
but if you guys have some things that God's walked you through in your life, I'd love to see it in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I think about, like I said, the walking through some things, and I look at it now. I look at the car wreck. I look at the situations that got me to Bible school. I look at the job situation. And in those moments, it was hard. There were some really hard times. But I look at it now, and, man, I just see such a testament, but so much love in those moments that I didn't even know about at that
Hmm.
time. And I think about it, and that's really what I think about. I'm like, man, there's so much love in that car with us whenever everything happened.
Yep.
Man, he must really love us that he
Hmm.
would put me in that car at that moment. What if my sister was driving? She's a horrible driver. Oh my
I
gosh.
think it's time to sign this one off. Thank y'all for being with us. We'd love to hear your
Yes.
testimonies and drop them in the comments, and we'll see y'all in the next one.
Bye.